Hey Opties! Today we're looking at point-slope form of a line. It's an equation, it's a formula, it's one of many you can use to write the equation of a line. What we're going to be doing with it today is writing an equation of a line given 2 points and also given a point and a slope. You can use either one of those scenarios to write an equation of a line, really in any form, but today we're just going to be looking at point-slope formula. First of all, let's review what a point is and what slope is. So a point is just a dot to show a location, and if you have it on your XY plane, it has an X value and a Y value. For point-slope formula, these points we're going to be using are going to be called X1, Y1. Slope is simply the tilt of a line, and we can always calculate slope by subtracting our Y values and dividing by subtracting our X values. If you're given 2 points to find slope, you can use the following formula we see here. So you can subtract your Y's by assigning each point to be the first point and the second point. Now it doesn't matter the order. This could be the first point and this could be the second, or this could be the first point and this could be the second. It does not matter. What does matter is that you start with the same point for your Y and your X. What I mean by that is, notice how it's Y2 and X2, they're vertically aligned, so they're right on top of each other. They're both the first number that you're going to be using in your division. Now, you can rewrite this as y1 minus y2 divided by x1 minus x2. As long as the numbers are the same, you're good. And again, the numbers here, the subscripts, these little numbers below the letters, that is just saying, okay, this y2 means it's the y point of the second point. And what makes it the second point is your choice. A lot of times we call this rise over run, because rise is telling us, okay, well, that's the y-axis, that's our numerator. And run is our x change, and that's going to be, if you run, you're running horizontally, right? If you're rising, you're going up and down. So that helps us remember the y and the x. And these triangles here mean delta. That's the word it would read, and delta just means the change in. So it's another way of representing the exact same thing. And M is the letter we use to denote slope. So again, point-slope formula for a line can be found given 2 points or a point and a slope. So 2 different ways you can do that. And that's what we're going to be practicing today. Let's take a look at the formula for point-slope form of a line. X and Y in the formula are the unchanging variables. Now those would be where you would substitute a particular X value or Y value if you wanted to find, say, the other thing. So if you want to substitute X and find the Y, or substitute Y and find the X, those would be the variables you're going to substitute in. But when you're writing the equation, they stay as X and Y. M is the slope of the line. Sometimes it's given to you. Sometimes it's not given to you and you're only given 2 points. And that's when you would use the slope formula we just saw to calculate the slope. X1 and Y1, that represents one of the points on the line that you are going to use for your formula. If you're given 1 point and 1 slope, just use that 1 point in your formula. If you're given 2 points, you can use either point in your formula. It will not change the equation of the line. Now it will look different if you use this point opposed to this point, but it does not mean that it would be incorrect. As long as the point is on the line, then it works. So here is something to really pay attention to. When you're looking at this slope formula, y minus y1 equals m times the quantity of x minus x1. Think about the fact that you have these negatives here. You have the negative y1, so you're subtracting the y coordinate of your point. you also have a negative on your x1, so you're subtracting the x coordinate of your point. So whatever your point is, when it's in parentheses, the sign of that will change. So if my x is 4 and I subtract 4, well, now it's not positive 4, it's a negative 4 in the equation. If my y is a negative 6, well, subtracting a negative 6 now becomes a positive 6. So that negative is now positive. So the sign always changes, and that's what our point to ponder is here. So if you're looking at a multiple choice question for point slope, check to see that you have the correct slope, and then make sure your x coordinate is beside the x, your y coordinate is beside your y, and the sign on your point has changed once it's become part of the equation. Let's take a look at some practice for writing the equation of a line in point slope form given 2 points and given a point in slope. Number 1, write an equation of the line in point slope form that passes through the 2 given points. So we're given 2 points here. We need to first find the slope and then use one of the points to substitute into the equation. Let's graph the points so we can get a visual of what the line looks like. So we'll go to -4, +8. That's going to be -4, 8. And 1, -17, that's a 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So somewhere kind of right here. I know it's off the graph, but that's okay. So 1, -17. We'll connect those 2 points to make our line. There's our arrow and this arrow. So we need to find our slope. Let's do rise over run, or subtract our y's, divide by subtracting our x's. I'm going to draw a dotted line to represent the change in y and a dotted line to represent the change in x. So let's start with this point, -17, and we're going to subtract this y value. So we're subtracting that +8. So that's a change of -25. That's our change in y. Now let's find our change in x. I'm going to draw an arrow. It's because of purpose of room. Let's take a look. And we need to start again with this bottom point, because that's the point we started with when we found our change in y. We need to keep that consistent. Think about how your 2's and your 1's have to be vertically aligned in the slope formula. So we're taking our 1 and we're subtracting whatever this x value is. So we're subtracting our -4. Notice I wrote the minus sign before I ever looked to see what this x value was, because I know I'm going to subtract it. That's the slope formula. If you don't do that, you might trip up and just do 1 - 4 and you wouldn't get the right answer. So make sure you're always subtracting whatever that point value is. So 1 minus -4 is 5. And that's our change in x. So let's find our slope. M is our slope. That's the change in y divided by the change in x. Y change is -25. Our x change is 5. So our slope is -5. Now let's substitute into the point slope formula. Y minus the y value of the point. Let's start with this point. And then we'll also do the equation for the other point, because again, it doesn't matter, but I'll just show you both of them. So y minus 8, because that's our y value, equals m, which is -5, times the quantity of x minus the x value. So x minus a -4 will be a +4. Remember, they change sign. The -4 became a +4. The +8 became a -8, and the slope stays the same. So that's one of the equations we could write. Here's the other. Let's use this other point now. Y minus the y value is going to be subtracting a negative 17. That changes to a positive 17. Our slope is still negative 5, and it's x minus the x value, which is 1. So we're done on number 1. It could be either one of these equations. Let's take a look at number 2. On this one, we also want to write the equation of the line that passes through this point, but we are also given a slope, so we already know what slope it's supposed to have. This one is a lot quicker. You simply just substitute into the point slope formula and you're done. So let's do that. I'll go ahead and write the original point slope formula just so we can visualize that. Okay, so y minus the y value, which is 7, equals the slope, which is 1/3, times the quantity of x minus the x value, which is 2. Okay, that's it. You're done.